I think I'm going to pin my video. I don't like to not be able to see things, but Zoom doesn't yet have the feature to just record the host, which is really annoying. So if I'm in gallery view, then I record everybody. And normally I just like zoom myself larger in my editing software, but it's kind of dodgy when there's more than a couple people. So I think what I'm going to do is spotlight myself, and so I'll be large for all of you. And I'm going to leave it that way for me too, for the most part, for the recording. And what that means is I won't actually see you. So, and maybe this is appropriate for my insurance disclaimer anyway, is that consider this not teaching or instruction, but as demonstration. I'll be demonstrating and discussing what I'm doing, and you're entirely responsible for your own well-being and care. And yeah, and then in between, I'll tell you in a moment what the game plan is, and in between we'll reconnect. But for the demonstration, I won't really be able to see you. If you have any concerns or anything, just pop them into the chat or unmute yourself and just speak. Might be easiest, or some combination of that, and I will do my best to address them. It's not recommended to do these exercises if you're on your menstrual cycle. In the manuals, or the books rather, it's just said don't do them. Murti said don't do them. Pregnant, obviously the same as well. There's a lot of heavy breathing, a little bit of navel business, maybe a little shoulder stand inversion. So not best stuff when you're pregnant. And let me think what else. A lot of the practice will involve holding your breath. And that's something that's quite particular to the Dev Murti style. And the reasons given for that are a few layers. One is the superficial reason, in a way, is that it helps you with timing. So you don't overdo things. So you can only hold your breath so long, not terribly long generally, especially if you're doing some exercise. And then that stops you from overstretching, overdoing it, which is interesting to see in comparison to other yogas. It also has a rather pronounced effect on developing the lung capacity and the aspect of the nervous system, parasympathetic in particular, that's related to that. And it is also said at one point, at least in the videos by his student that are online, Bhavan Desi, that it's one of the secrets of Kundalini, of yoga. And that's, I hear that echoed in other places as well. So sometimes it's called kumbhaka, something like that, which basically means holding your breath. Sometimes it also is interpreted as meaning like squeeze the whole body and the muscles. And there's actually a little bit of that in specific places that we may or may not touch today. But it's also said to be optional. And if you have a high blood pressure situation, then you definitely don't want to be holding your breath while you're doing these postures. So be mindful of that. And if you feel like it's too much, then just breathe. One thing that is said in this yoga is that there are some sequences, some things obviously that are like warm up for other things as well. But for the most part, it's you do what you want, and you can take these sequences and reassemble them as you see fit. And it's explicitly said, at least his student in one of the videos, as I was saying last night, says that that's the joy of yoga, is that you can decide one day, well, I don't feel up for doing this, so I'll do that, and tailor it to what your body is asking for. And I think that's a really enjoyable freedom to have, coming from traditions where it's taught very formulaic. So take that lead to do what you need to do to adjust things to make them work for you, to feel that it's right. There's being lazy and not really wanting to do it. That's one thing, but there's also, you just know, like, don't need to go there today. So take those liberties. Let's see, what else? Well, the game plan today, let's discuss that. The plan is we have 3 hours minus a bit, and we're going to break it up, I think, into two portions with a big break in between. And the first portion will be possibly a little longer, and it'll actually consist of two sets of things. And in between, we'll probably have a relaxation. We'll see how we feel. And the first is what is called in one of the books is a basic sequence, and is really fantastic. I say warm up, but it's more than that. Like getting the body very limber and loose, and getting the spine feeling really good, and get everything feeling relaxed at the same time, and the energy, heart pumping a bit even, and moving. The second part of that first section will do what Dev Murti dubbed the crocodile exercises, and these are a sequence of spinal stretches in a way, lying on the ground. There are a number of sequences he taught. There's, I think, 4 on the ground, 1 standing, and 1 sequence seated and leaning back. We'll do the 2 on the ground today, and the rest are very similar, just from starting from a different position. And those are things that he invented, as we were saying in the webinar yesterday. It derived from him realizing that humans evolved to stand up too quickly, and this throws their spine, the skeleton is not designed for it, and therefore the body gets out of balance. So this was his creation to correct that, and to, beyond just good health, facilitate the better flow of energy and facilitate Kundalini rising. And he explicitly discusses Kundalini that his students recorded in these manuals. So it is he never dubbed it Kundalini Yoga because there wasn't really a need to create a brand, especially back in the kind of late 50s, 60s. Branding, modern invention, right? But it is a yoga that, wall yoga in some sense, moves the energy, right? But there are a few exercises as well that his student Bhavan Desi says this is a Kundalini activating exercise. So for the second portion, we'll do a few of those because they're interesting, and we'll do some of the other breath work around that. I feel in this praxis there are a few things that are, so there are things that he explicitly invented, and then there are things that are very common to, if you read around other yogas, that some of which are in the practice taught by Yogi Bhajan, and some of which are strangely just didn't really feature. And what's interesting about this is it kind of brings them back a bit. And one of those is neti, which we won't do today, but is when you pour the salt water from one nostril to the other, and pour it out to clean the nasal passage. And the other neti is you can get a rubber tube, stick it up your nose, it comes down your throat. It seems a bit gross if this is your first time hearing about such things. And then you massage the nasal tissue back there, which is actually activates this whole nerve complex, in the end of which in Sanskrit is the Ida Pingala Shushmuna. I've not done that before, but I plan to try it out. So maybe if I work it out and it's safe, we'll do a workshop on it. But that's for you to pioneer on your own. Another is Bhastrika, which is Breath of Fire original, which is generally, there are variations, but is generally taught with full breath. And so we'll do some of that. And it's quite a different experience than the shallow breath of fire taught by Yogi Bhajan, which also features in Devmurti. Interesting, it's the only other place I've seen shallow breath of fire. And then the other thing is quite key, is he focuses on Mahabandha. So, but going beyond just the 3 locks. So there's more locks. You're probably doing some of them anyway without realizing it, but we'll work on that in the last bit. So there's a fair bit. I find I often overcrowd these things, and afterwards I'm like, oh, I could do that as a whole day workshop. So we'll move a bit quickly, especially in the first bit. The first bit's quite vigorous, and then the lying down bit is quite chill. So don't feel like we're going to do 3 hours of the intensity in the beginning. And none of it's really hard. There's a couple of things that are maybe, you know, depending on your fitness level, a little challenging, but nothing posturally difficult. Nothing that the hardest thing is probably a shoulder stand. If you can do that, then you're golden. And if not, then you can do a variation and it'll be fine. And that's what's great about it. It's I find it's maximum bang for buck. It's for the amount of effort put in and the amount of you have to like really push yourself to do it. You don't really have to push yourself to do it. Everything's quite short and it's all quite doable. You just have to keep going. I get a lot of juice out of it. So that's cool experience. And I'll try to point out along the way, or you probably don't even have to, you'll realize it, some of the interesting things that are from Dev Murti that Yogi Bhajan picked up and used, such as elephant walk. I'm going to teach this. When I do this in classes or on my own, I often will bring in a few other elements and things, but I'm going to teach it today is much like the sources that I've learned it from, so you can have that experience. And all these books and videos are online, and I can share with you those resources. Maybe I'll send them in the mail out with a recording, so you can do your own work. I don't harbor anything special, and I'm not a Dev Murti representative. There's a guy who's, I think, happy to carry that banner. This is just part of my exploration that I've been working with for a little while now, and very pleased to be able to share. So, how's that sound? Good? You ready? Any questions before we kick off? Right? I've got, let me test, camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1, nice. So you should be able to see me quite well.
So sorry, I do have a question.
Yep.
Are we going to do warm-ups? Like if there's anything particular strenuous, are we going to warm up into it? I mean, I know it's quite a warm day anyway, but
The beginning sequence is effectively a warm-up.
okay.
I don't see there to be, I think that effectively does the warm-up.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anything else I wanted to say? He doesn't tune in. They often go, Hari Om. That's how they begin. And we know that mantra, you know. Hari Om. But I think it's good to maybe just assume a sort of prayerful attitude and just offer up gratitude for, not even for the individuals, but for the currents that bring us these practices, and I feel in a way bringing to us in a way that's more free nowadays. And I'm very grateful for that. And there were many things that have happened and many powerful personalities that brought them into more of a public psyche, and a lot of positive and a lot of negative with that. And we're in a position to just be able to reap the benefits and own our self-responsibility. And I'm grateful for that and offer that up. And also a prayer to that current that's very preeminent, is very present, that's symbolized sometimes by the snake or the dragon, that we can tap into, we can tune our resonance with, and receive direct knowledge, insight, and teaching from. And it is the source, as stated in scripture, of all yoga. This was the Kundalini as goddess and the Kundalini as serpent. And so I like to align intention, set an intention to align with that. Hari Om. Let us come standing. And to start off, and in between all these postures, these exercises, we'll do this, but just lift up the left and right leg and alternating sides and give them a shake in their sockets, a little twist. Let the head do a little jostle as well. Just letting the breath be relaxed. And a key emphasis in this yoga is letting go of the tension between the postures, which I feel is a really useful thing, because I personally tend to accumulate tension in working on computers and things, and even doing yoga after years, I realized I've acquired tension. So that habit of letting it go quite explicitly between postures is, I think, a really positive one, bringing more yin to the yang in a way. So make fists. I don't think it's stated. I always like to put my thumb inside, but instructions are make fists. And now, before we inhale, we exhale in general. And as you exhale, let the chest collapse a bit to really empty the lungs completely. And then inhale deeply. Top of the breath, lift the chest a bit, let the head go back a bit to fully expand the chest and get as much air in as possible. Hold the breath in and begin to make arm circles until you run out of breath. And when you do, come still, exhale. And then when you exhale, bend forward just to horizontal with the upper body and hold the breath out for a couple seconds. And then inhale up and shake both sides. And take whatever time you need to on that held breath, and we'll somehow synchronize up as we do. Now the eyes, interesting thing, I was looking back in one of the books and it said the eyes are to remain closed. But then you look at all the videos and they've got their eyes open. And you look at Dev Murti doing Bhastrika and his eyes are open. So I leave it to you. But if you're used to closing your eyes all the time, it might be an experience to practice staring to the infinity point, staring past the walls, like you're down at the seashore and you can see the beach, and seeing how that affects things. But feel free to experiment. And the other key piece of information in this is that in order to activate Kundalini at the root, he gives the instruction to focus on the base of the spine as you do the postures and to mentally vibrate Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, spark mantra, beats, a bij mantra, Har. So do that, bring that mindfulness in it. So in a way, there is mantra. There's no chanting that I've seen explicitly outwardly, but inside. Right. Other direction. Exhale to inhale. Fists. Go. Until you run out of air. And exhale. Hold out. Come up. Shake left, shake right. Shake, shake, shake it. Let go of the tension. Let the hands be relaxed. And then we'll exhale to inhale. And when the breath is held this time, twisting left and right, but letting the arms just flop. And get a sense of that. And when you run out of breath, exhale. Inhale, quick shake. Now, same thing, but this time, when you twist to the left, try to look at the wall on the right. And when you twist all the way to the right, try to look at the wall on the left. So first exhale to inhale. And when you reach your limit, exhale. And inhale up. Give it a shake. Come up like so. Arms bent at 90 degrees and upper arms parallel to the ground. Fists Exhale to inhale, and then we're going to twist, but keep the head looking forward this time. And when you reach your capacity, exhale. And really squeeze the air out when you get to the bottom of that breath. Give it almost like you're trying to cough something up. And you might find you naturally apply a middle bond, though it's never really specified. Come up. Shake, shake. And one more in that sequence. So same thing, but this time as you twist, keeping the head forward, bend the knees. So exhale to inhale. Pull the belly in so the breath is in the upper chest, expanding the ribs out. And exhale when you're ready. Inhaling up and shake, shake, shake. So this next exercise is called Namaskar Pranayam. So, Namaskar as in greetings. Pranayam as in is a breathing meditation. And it's a shallow sniffer, so we would, if it were written in a 3HR manual, it would be called Breath of Fire. But the instruction is to press the palms together as your Namaskar, and begin to bounce them as you sniff. Doesn't matter, inhale, exhale, which way, you figure it out. One thing I will add is that really the point of this is to shake the spine. And you get that by pushing the hands together and getting the right rhythm. And when you do it, your whole body should just begin to oscillate without you having to do anything. So establish that with the breath. And then from here, bend forward from the upper body, not the waist, like articulating the spine into a curve. Bend back. Come straight, turn right. Turn left. Come straight, bend right. Bend left. Do 2 more rounds of that. Forward, back. Twist right, twist left. Bend right, bend left. Maybe you can hear your spine doing little adjustments, saving you a chiropractor visit. And one more. And inhale. Exhale. And shake. Get the tension out. Now we'll do some Bhastrika with a bit of movement. You can do this standing or seated. I've seen demonstrations from Dev Murti and students doing both. I like to come seated or kneeling. Choose your preference. It's going to be done with the breath with the arms. So, Bhastrika, breath of fire. Where it comes from, Bhastrika means bellows. And it's like when you have a fire and you have that air puff and you blow it to stoke up the fire. It's not because it generates fire or heat in it. Maybe it does, doesn't, but it's simulating that bellow. And it's important when you're doing any sort of intense breathing to be established in belly breath so that you inhale, belly expands, exhale, belly contracts. I imagine most of you watching this will probably be familiar with that and comfortable with that. If you aren't, then just take it slow and do the breath slower. You can breathe the full lung capacity, but just do it more slowly. If you ever feel dizzy or anything, just take a break and chill. Don't overdo it. That being said, if you're used to the breath of fire and Kundalini yoga, Tapa Yogi Bhajan style, this is a really nice kind of addition to that. I think a more effective increase. They do different things in a way, but like gets the energy moving quite powerfully. And in a lot of the Kriyas Yogi Bhajan taught, you get this sort of arm business, but often it's not really specified. And so people being very much following the letter of the law will just kind of move arms back and forth. But when you see Murti do it, you see what it actually is. It's this lung opening pranayama. So the first one is we inhale, reach forward, exhale, pull back. Inhale, reach forward, straight forward from the shoulders, exhale back. Start off slow, count to yourself, increase the pace, and aim to do maybe 50 or whatever feels comfortable. But if you're doing 50, you may get the pace up so we don't take too long. Now you can breathe through your nose. You can inhale nose, exhale mouth. I've seen that done as if you're trying to blow a hand that's out in front of you. It's kind of up to you. If you're breathing through the mouth, make up pursed lips and create a little bit of constriction so that you have a bit of resistance. And when you get towards the end, begin to slow down. And you can correct any shallow breathing that you were doing. When you get to the end, inhale, reach forward. And exhale and bend down as we were doing before. Exhale the air out. Inhale. Come back up. Give yourself a little shake to release tension. So, next one. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, down. Remember to keep the face relaxed. That's the biggest danger of doing the full Bhastrika is you end up, even with short breath, shallow breath of fire, people start scrunching their face up in their nose. Relax the face. Just the diaphragm is required in that movement of the arms, whatever muscles cause that to happen. Everything else is chill. And inhale back, vertical, shake it out. Third and final in this Bhastrika sequence. Inhale, exhale. In these videos, Bob and Daisy makes a point of counting too, and that's just part of bringing mindfulness to it. And also to gauge where you're at today in a way. Oh, okay, it's a 50 day, or it's maybe I'll push and do as 100 today, or whatever it is. But also making sure your mind doesn't wander. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, bend forward. and shake it out. Now, if you were teaching beginners who had no experience doing yoga with this kind of breath, you'd really want to pare this down, right? And just get them to do like 10 quite slowly and build it up over time. Same with like the holding the breath out. You can extend that and work with it if you have the lung capacity, you're used to that kind of thing. And that's an energetic transaction related to the kind of Mulaband energy. So that's something you can experiment with as well, holding the breath out longer at the end. Okay, come seated. Let's save that one for later. So come into like a squat, crow-ish. You're not going to be here long, so don't get too particular about it. Now from here, inhale and laugh with your mouth closed as you like twist and snake your way up to vertical, trying to just stretch and articulate anything that needs a stretch, needs a move. So while laughing with your mouth closed. That's the instruction. And shake it out. Now from here, let the head droop a bit and the shoulders droop a bit, and begin to like just dance and shake as you babble with your mouth, like from the throat, kind of clearing that whole breathing passage from the throat up. And come standing. Get your balance back. Next one is that we will inhale, and then you're going to do this motion with a cannon breath, so making your mouth into an O shape, powerful exhale. And as you do, throw the arm and leg forward, so that they snap at the end of their tether, as if there was like a ball on the end of a rope. And then to the left, and then behind you, and the right, and then to the side, behind you. Now, then go back to the first side, but try to do all three without putting your foot down. And do a couple on each side. But you really want to catch that snap, and you feel that it's sending energy, physical shock wave to loosen everything up in the body. Shaky shake. However you feel you need to move. This next one is they call it electric pranayama. And all it really is interlace the fingers like so. You can see, yeah, good. Down at the navel, and let the thumbs touch. Bring your feet a little closer together. And we're going to hold the breath in various fashions and do a bit of pumping as well. So the first one, exhale, let the chest round, shoulders round, chest collapse, head drop. Inhale deeply. Feel the belly, feel the chest, head rises a bit to feel the last part of the lungs. And then hold the breath in and bring the chin down towards the clavicle, making a neck lock. For the first one, pull the belly in and pull the air up into the chest cavity, expanding the upper rib cage, stretching the upper lungs. And hold. And then to release, spread the feet a bit wider, let the hands release and open up, palms facing forward at the side, and exhale, bend. You can catch your knees, squeeze out all the air, hold for a couple seconds. And now inhale, up. Now this I've been kind of considering what this motion is about, because it was taught in one of the videos, no explanation. I'm kind of into considering explanations now rather than just doing things. And I don't really know, but I would reckon a useful thing to play with is this sort of sense that you're creating energy in the hold, and then as you step, you're releasing it like a beam in a way, two hands and a navel. I don't know what the intention is there, but if you're going to do something, then it's good to know why you're doing it. And so bring something in and see if that makes sense, see if that does anything, or is it just a waste time? But yeah, make it meaningful. Next one, feet close together. Exhale, inhale, neck lock, and then push the belly out as far as you can, pulling the breath down as low into the abdomen as possible. And hold out as long as you can comfortably without straining, and with some consideration for keeping pace with us. Some of you may hold your breath for a long time, but balance it out with keeping pace. And when you get to your reasonably comfortable limit, spread the feet, open the hands. Exhale, bend forward. You can catch the legs. Squeeze out all the air. And bend the knees and bring yourself up in a relaxed fashion. Interesting that if you look at the student of Dhirendra Brahmacharya, Swami Dhirendra Brahmacharya was another teacher of Yogi Bhajan's, as stated in that early publication. His student, after his postures, does what he calls chagari breath, where you inhale and you push the belly out. But then he always follows it with another exhale, inhale, and pulling the navel in, which I think is interesting in terms of this whole prana apana mixing to ignite the fire. But when this sequence I'm doing now is taught in the book and the videos, it's belly in before belly out. And I feel maybe, I don't know, one to play with maybe, but also this is also kind of just like about warming up the lungs and the belly a bit. Okay, so back to same position, exhale to inhale. And now push and pull the belly. Not like a rapid, don't even think of it as like a pump per se. Think of it as you've got this almost beach ball of breath and you're moving it up to the lungs, down to the belly, up to the lungs, down to the belly. And you can use your hands to help you a bit. And when you get to your limit, spread them, bend, air out. And bend the knees and come up. Give it a little shake. And a couple more. Exhale to inhale. And this time, use your hands to help you, but try to make a wave that kind of starts at the bottom and rolls up. So you're trying to like, you're pulling the bottom bit and the top bit, doing a wave up. So you're trying to milk your intestines upwards, and then we'll do downwards next. So exhale, inhale. When you get to your limit, spread the hands and the feet, exhale down. Bend the knees, come up. There are times when that exhale down can be quite forceful, which maybe we'll do a bit later. And then there are times where it's expressed to do it slowly, still emptying the lungs completely. And during that sequence, it's expressed to do it slowly, slower than when the breath came in. And one more, we'll do the same thing, but the wave is going down. So exhale to inhale. Chin lock, wave down. And spread. Exhale down. Inhale, bend the knees up. Shake, shake. Let's see one more. The pranayama. This is called something like washerwoman pranayama. Sometimes there's a Sanskrit, sometimes he doesn't bother. But you're bending, so feet spread a little bit to give you balance. Bend at the waist about 45 degrees, give or take. And spread the arms, you make fists or not. And you're doing this, inhaling deeply as you spread back, exhale as you cross the chest, alternating which arm's on top. And once you get that established and the head stays in line with the spine, begin to move to the left and to the right. Powerful expulsion of air to flush out any phlegm in the lungs. And then inhale and stretch up. Invert the hands. Stretch up, lean back. And exhale quick and powerfully into that half bent posture. Hold out. Inhale. Up. Let's do another one. Inhale, invert the palms, stretch back. Exhale powerfully forward and down. And when you get all the air out, try to cough like an old man, like to really get the last bit. And then relax, bend the knees, calm up. And the book is called Cough Like an Old Man. And this is a really great thing to do, particularly in the morning. And you'd be surprised, but you might not think I'm particularly congested right now, but then the phlegm comes up. And then that means more of your lungs surface, inner lung surface, is available for taking in oxygen and empowering the whole biochemistry. Okay, so let's do that sequence, which would begin by, so inhale, exhale, bend in half, like so. Hands on the floor, feet. If you can, if you can't, and you don't have the flexibility, just anchor them on whatever part of your leg works for you. And exhale and inhale with the breath held in. Begin to twist the spine, walking the hands and feet in a way that allows you to articulate sideways, twisting all the vertebrae of the spine. Let the head hang. And then exhale. And you can come up, bend the knees. Sometimes when I'm doing this on my own, I'll stay down. It's not really specified. We'll just take it easy and come up, shake. Next one, inhale. Exhale, bend down. And then snap and snatch with the hands. And when you run out of breath, bend the knees. Inhale, exhale, inhale, up. Shake it out. Next one. Everyone's favorite from KY, as taught by YB, is elephant walk. Though it's not called, he doesn't call it elephant walk. Inhale, bend forward, and place the hands either by the feet, or you can maybe grab the feet, and begin to walk around the room, breath held in. And it said with the back high, arched in the air, head down like a cat. And when you run out of breath, don't ever extend yourself. You can just exhale, inhale, and come up. Slowly, slowly, for the blood. Shake. Next one. Inhale, bend down, and now let the hands be a couple feet, like a half a meter in front of the feet, and walk around on all fours with the back arched up, head down. It's kind of triangle, kind of walking downward dog in a way, but don't think about, don't overthink that. And when you get to your capacity, exhale, inhale up. And these are all the beginning of that readjusting the spine. Kind of reminds me of Kung Fu, where in Kung Fu, the martial art is derived from study of animals and the postures that they assume. And that's similar to what we're doing here. So the last, or maybe penultimate part in that mini subsequence, inhale, bend forward, and now bend the knees, and so your back stays level to the floor, and walk around like an animal. And when I get done here, I often just drop down to my knees, exhale when you're ready. Reminds me, I've just been watching Lord of the Rings special features, and the guy, Gollum, was played by an actor, and they had these motion capture things on him. So every time Gollum's going around, bouncing around on all fours, that was an actor. I always think of that when I'm doing this. You must have a good spine. So the last part actually is kind of freeform cat-cow. So on the hands and knees, inhale deeply, and then just bend the spine however you feel it wants to bend with the breath held in. And exhale, inhale, and come resting on the seated position. And come into butterfly position. So feet together, knees spread. Excuse me. This is a fun one, so have fun, do your best with it. Excuse me. Make sure you've got some room. And what you're going to try to do is grab your feet with your hands and the toes, and then fall and roll around and come up again. And I guess it probably depends on how much your knees are bent, but if you do two, you might come back to forward again. Try to end up where you started somehow and keep rolling until you do. And then when you've done one side, do the other way. Breathe as you see fit. This way. So I haven't seen that explicitly in a Kriya, but I've seen rocking back and forth in butterfly. So there's this kind of dynamic. I feel that in general, a lot of the dynamic nature of Yogi Bhajan's teachings probably had a lot of influence from Dev Murti and the way that he taught. Because most of Dev Murti's stuff involves constant moving. And he says that he wasn't particularly I think he did asana and taught asana because there's some photos of old students doing some asanas like locusts, serious asanas. But he didn't think it was very good for people to start off doing, that you had to have a certain level of purity in the body and openness and flexibility possibly before you even started the asana, which kind of resonates with the way hatha was originally taught. It wasn't meant to just come in cold, having no exercise to do. I'm saying it's wrong. It clearly works for a lot of people, but that's that dynamic element is quite particular, I feel, in Murti. Okay, let us do one of the segmented breathing. Let me just check time. And no, we'll save that. How long is it going to take me to do that? Nah, probably a half hour, isn't it? Let's go into the crocodile exercises. You need a little rest? Yeah? Some yes, some no. Bathroom break? Let's take a 5-minute break. Literally 5 minutes. Sorry, I'm looking up there. I'm here. Let's take a 5-minute break. Be back at 3:35, please. And if you need to lie down, rest. If you need the loo, do the loo. And then we'll move on from there. When you're relaxing, it's a good idea to, I think in general, to bring in more of the cooling side. And in this practice, he teaches a couple cooling breaths, one of which you likely know, which is Sitali Pranayam, where you curl the tongue, breathe in quite strongly so the air becomes cool, and then exhale through the nose. I've been trying to bring that into the end of every practice. So I feel like one of the things we don't realize we do is generate a lot of heat and then don't really cool it back down, and it irritates the mind and has a kind of consequence. Okay, we'll continue. I realized I wanted to show you that I missed was the sequence in shoulder stand. So before we go on to the crocodile, I'll run through it really quick, partly because it's the kind of thing you see often in Yogi Bhajan Kriyas. If you want to just relax and watch, take it as a breather. If you want to do it with me really quick, then feel free. But the way that he teaches to get into shoulder stand is quite specific. So lying on the ground, stretch the toes forward, hands relax at the side with the palms down. And then from here, bring the legs up to just about a foot or two off the ground. Pause for a moment, then continue to bring them up to 45 degrees slowly, and pause, and up to 90. And then from here, slowly bringing the back up and the legs up as controlled as you can, extending up into shoulder stand. For those who've just popped back on, I was saying that I meant to do this in the last sequence, so I'll demo it really quickly. If you want to do it with me, go for it. If not, then just relax for a couple minutes and watch. And the first one is bicycling. Let the breath just be relaxed. Again, it's good to count. So you have a kind of goal, you have a mental, you're there mentally. You can also focus on your mental chanting and change direction backwards, bicycle. And then next one, inhaling spread, exhaling close, which we definitely done in Yogi Bhajan Kriyas. Normally I might do a few more, depending on my time. And the next one is you make big circles, and they're actually going in the same direction, they're just out of phase. So one is back when the other is forward. They meet in the middle, then one goes forward and the other back, out and around. So you can feel it's working the hip joint, hamstring, the inner thighs, other direction. And then back to vertical. And the next one is exhale down, inhale up. alternating. Or inhale down. I don't think it actually specified, but good to do with the breath. And he tells a story in the book how his master, he was close with in all his life, when his master was well over 100, he went back for a visit, Dev Murti, and his master couldn't really walk up the stairs anymore. And he sat with his student Dev Murti, and Dev Murti gave him this sequence to do. The next time he went to visit him, he was very nimble, back to his more youthful self. Right? And then if you have the ability to bring them back into what I call plow pose, and then it's said you can do a prayer pose namaskar behind your back if you choose. And then coming out of it, gently and lie on your back. So catch your breath a moment. And we'll move into the first of the crocodile sequences. And I'm going to run through two of them. Time hopefully on our side. And he made a big deal out of there being 12 exercises in each. Let me just tell it to you straight. There's not 12 exercises in each. There's like 18 to 20. And it's a little bit nutty. So like sometimes you have, like there's an exercise 0, and then there's like exercise 3 is do, left, and then exercise 4 is to do right. But then exercise 7 has parts A, B, C, and D that are sometimes entirely different exercises. So I don't know what was going on with 12. But there's just a bunch of things. And again, you can kind of choose what you do. And in fact, he said like the 7th one, which is a certain kind of articulation in the seated position, is if you do nothing else every day. So maybe I'll show that as an addendum, because we're not going to do it the seated way. So I'm going to run through like the first part of one, then segue to the other, and then do the last bit in the end. Anyway, just go with the flow. You'll be fine. Lay on your belly. Now, the first thing is to get the relaxation thing, the equivalent of that shaky shake we were doing at the end of every posture. And to do that, turn your head to the side and let the arms be kind of beyond the head, but in a relaxed fashion. The legs are there. And then lift them up and kind of let them drop. And as you do, just turn the head to a different side each time. Don't let your head drop and give yourself a smack. You have to control your head, but try to let your limbs just free fall, just a couple inches. So you're just getting out tension. So you come up, held on your navel just for a moment. So that's the relaxation between. And it's listed as between every one. Sometimes I'll do a couple before I do that. Again, time, modern world. Now, the next bit on this version is how to anchor the head. And the way that you do that is to take your right hand and spread the fingers with 2 on each side, Spock style, and then place in that gap, place your wrist. So the 2 of the fingers on the left of the one side of the wrist and 2 are on the other. And that little V in the middle is where your chin goes. And that's like the pivot for your chin. So, you can turn your back of your head to the right, you can turn it to the left, but the whole time your chin stays in that little divot. Now, here, feet together, curl the toes under. And as you do these exercises, you want the knees straight and off the ground. And then when you relax, you can relax them back down. The first one is you spread the feet just about a foot width apart, such that I'll show you, we'll go into it and then you'll see. So from there, exhale to inhale and hold the breath in. And now bring the left heel down to the twist the leg over so the left heel comes towards the floor, and that the right heel comes and just touches, is on the floor, just touching the left toes, if you can see that in the camera. And then slowly go the other way. So the heels go to the right, the left heel touches the right toes. And as you do that, as you twist the heels to the left, the back of the head goes to the right. And you twist the heels to the right, back of the head goes to the left. And you do that until you run out of your breath, at which point you relax, catch your breath, and then do 2 or 3 of the flop, the fish relaxations. They're called, particularly when you do the only back version. And as you'll see, this is probably where the frying fish thing that turns up in Yogi Bhajan Kriyas comes from, on the back version. Right, so that's the first. Head back. Now cross the right foot over the left. Inhale deeply, and then twist the feet, the heels to the left as the back of the head goes right. Heels go right as head goes left. Breath held in, knees straight off the ground. And go, it's quite slow. Maybe like 6 seconds per side, I think sometimes they say. Work out your pace, but it's not fast. And then you run out of breath, exhale, a few flops. We'll keep moving, but you can gauge your rest accordingly. You can also do a few repetitions of each of these. We don't have time for that. That's the all-day workshop version, maybe. Next one, left over right heel, so just doing the other side. Exhale to inhale. Straighten the knee and twist back of the head and heels moving in opposite direction. And remembering to focus your mental energy on the base of the spine, vibrating your seed mantra, Hari Om, Hari Om. When you're out of breath, relax. Do a few flops. Hands and head back into position. Now, let's do right foot, you're up on the toes, and the left foot, place the Achilles tendon, above the heel, or the heel rather, really, just kind of Achilles and heel meet. Place that between the big toe and the first toe, or the second toe rather, and get it as deep as you can. That's specified. So you're kind of stimulating that crease between the toes quite deeply with the heel of the right foot. And then those knees are straight as you inhale. Then the heels go to the left as the back of the head goes to the right, reversing. And you might notice that each time the stretch gets a little deeper and also articulates in a slightly different way. And when you run out of breath, exhale. Do a few flops. Let's do the other side. Hands, head in position. Right toes spread around the left heel. Knees straight, inhale, hold, and twisty twist. And I don't think anyone was really talking about, or if they even knew of the myofascia at the time, but this to me can be a really deep myofascia experience, especially first thing in the morning. And when you're done, exhale. Flop, flop. Now, bend the knees and spread the knees. So in the way that the very first one we did had when you twisted to the side, had the heel meeting the toes of the opposite foot, you're going to do that with the feet and the knees. So as you, in a minute, when you hold your breath, and as you twist to the one side, say to the left, the right foot will come down and the bottom of the foot might just meet with the left knee. And then as you twist to the feet to the right, then the left foot meets the right knee. And knees are bent like 90 degrees, right? So work out how far you need to spread your knees to make that happen. Exhale to inhale. Hold the breath in, twisting the legs and the back of the head opposite direction. And relax. A few flops. Assume position. Start with the right. They're often starting with the right and doing the left. I doubt the whole universe will flip if you do left versus right. But just so you know, now the left knee comes into the left leg bends and the left knee comes into the back of the right knee. Breath held in, twisting. So then the bent foot comes down to the ground, the opposite direction as the back of the head moves. It's a little bit funky, that one, but also quite a deep stretch that goes up into the rib cage. Exhale. And sometimes I'll just go straight into the other side. So if you got the mojo, stay with me. And again, that straight leg, you're on the toes, knees off the ground. Inhale. And twist. And when you get to your end, exhale and do a few floppy fish. Inhaling as you come up, exhaling as you flop. And however you need to wiggle. Okay. This is the, I think, infamous exercise 7 with parts A through D. So part 7C, I think, is bend the knees, grab them, the ankles with the hands, which is, it's common bow pose, but a couple differences is you inhale and hold the breath in, and you only do it that long. And then the first one, you're rocking side to side. So we inhale, come up, heels up, head up, and rock side to side. Until you run out of breath, and exhale. And in controlled fashion down. Maybe a floppy fish or two. And then bend the knees again, grab the ankles once more, and here we come into rocking bow pose as we know it. So inhale with the breath held in, which I think makes it a fair bit easier because you've got a little bit of something to ballast or bulge to roll on. So inhale deeply and rock. Until you run out of breath, and then exhale down. flop a couple times. Now, from here, we're going to do vowel laughing while we kind of like crawl with the arms and feet in the air. Vowel laughing is you take a breath in, and then you start with A, and you laugh until you have no breath left in you. So start with ha, and then when you get done ha, then you take a quick breather, and then do hey, new breath in. And then he. And then ho. Excellent. And then who. Whew. Couple fluffs. And then just let the head be at one side, whichever side. And again, laughing with your mouth closed for one full breath. Or maybe even a couple. Whew. Now, there are two more, kind of one more exercise and then one set of shoulder things. I want to segue, and you're done at the end of these sequences. So it's kind of meant you do like maybe one of these sequences per day, at most, and then you vary it up. And we're going to flip over onto our backs. Maybe, let me do a time check. We might go a little quicker or skip over a few, but it's basically the same thing on your back until you get towards the end, and then it changes up a bit, because obviously you can't do rocking bow pose on your back. So hang with me if you can. Come onto your back. 4. Okay, that's cool. We're doing good. Now from here, the arms, when you're doing these exercises, will be straight out from the shoulders. Well, yeah, you can get the gist from me. But in between, I'll show you the fish relaxation. And there's kind of like a couple, depending on how intense you want to make it. And the first is just to keeping the feet on the floor, bend the right knee up a bit, and bend the right forearm up a bit, and then just let them free fall. Bend the left knee up a bit, left arm, let them free fall. And as you do, just let the head kind of turn in some relation to that. And it's really to embody like a deep relaxation. It's quite effective. And that's not just a kind of chill out after the real stuff. That this whole like fish shaky relaxation thing, I feel, is a fundamental part of activating Kundalini. That it's kind of where a lot of stuff that involves direct stimulation of Kundalini has a weird kind of like shaky, jerky quality to it, and a kind of relaxation element in a funny way too. Now the next level fish, I mean, I don't know, you really want to see them hierarchically, but what they call fish relaxation, beyond that one, is one that probably led to this whole, I don't know if you've done a Kriya where it's like pretend like you're on a fish pan frying. Well, it's said here in one of the books to pretend that you're a fish and you're on land, but you're not to like, it's not to kind of wear you out shaking until you drop. It's to kind of just wiggle loose and let them fall. Wiggle, let them fall. And you start off maybe a little bit of wiggle, and then you settle it down until it's just like maybe that flop, right? That's fish relaxation, and it's done between each of the exercises on the sequence where you're on your back. So let's run through at least some of those. So hands out to the side, palms up. Start with the feet, foot width apart. Straighten the legs. Exhale to inhale. Pull the breath up. And then twist the chin towards the right shoulder as you twist the feet to the left, such that the right toes meet the left heel. And then reverse it. Chin goes to the left. Left toes meet the right heel. Right toes meet the floor. Well, they both meet the floor, but you know what I mean. And steadily and gradually twisting. Until you run out of breath. Exhale. And do some fishy flops. Gradually until it's back to total relaxation. So next one is right foot over left ankle. Inhale. Twisting those feet to the left as the chin goes right. And switching. Remembering to concentrate on the base of the spine. Harium, 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 whatever pace you're on. Maybe a bit slower than that. Exhale. And let's just, for time's sake, swap and do the other side. Inhale. Twist left and right. Exhale. A few fishy flops. Similar thing where the right heel goes between the first and second toes as deep as you can. Straight legs, arms out to the side. Exhale to inhale. And then bringing those feet down to the left as the head turns right, and vice versa. And exhale. And maybe just go right into the other side. And relax. A few fish flops, remembering the head goes side to side too. The next one would involve normally placing the right. Let's see, sorry, I'm just considering time. 1.5 hours. Yeah, we'll go through it today. Okay, so right foot gets placed outside of the left knee. So the foot crosses over the leg and is on the floor by the left knee. Yeah, floor. Exhale to inhale. And then twist hips and that knee over. Or actually, it might be on top of the right knee. Work it out. That makes more sense to me, yeah. Or somewhere around there. But then it goes to the left as the head goes right. Now you can feel you're getting up into the upper body more. And when it twists to the open spot, it's not so much stretch. And then relax. Another side. Exhale to inhale. And relax. Hang tight 1 second. I just want to make sure I get this sequence right for the next couple. Oh, yeah. Yep, okay. 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 So next one, bend the knees, spread the feet, and kind of similar to when we were on our stomach, as you twist to the left, the right knee will come down to meet towards the foot if it doesn't quite meet it, as the left knee goes out. And then when you twist the other way, left knee comes to meet the right foot. So exhale to inhale. And twist. And when you're done, relax. A few fishes. Now bring both the knees up, just to vertical. The upper legs are pointing up and the lower the calves are parallel to the floor. Feet relaxed. Inhale. And just allow them to rotate to the left as the head twists to the right. And vice versa. Breath held in. And when you're done, exhale, relax. Now bring your knees to your chest. Wrap your arms around them. Inhale, and then rock side to side on the spine as you turn the head the opposite direction of the knees. They don't have to come all the way to the floor. Just rocking. And exhale when you're ready. And then bend the knees and rock along the spine back and forth. I don't know, does this posture turn up in other practices? I imagine somewhere, but not in a vinyasa class or a traditional hatha class. But in Yogi Bhajan's Kriya's it comes up a lot. The breath is held in. And then when you're done, and you're supposed to come from like practically a shoulder stand to a seated position. So assuming your spine is comfortable and your floor is friendly, that's the goal. And then relax and shake. And let's do another round of Val laughing, which you can also do as a miracle bend standing. So now just kind of cycling the hands and feet and turning the head sideways as you go. Relax. Then a couple breaths in, laughing with the mouth closed. Whew. Okay. Interlace the fingers and bring them down with the palms towards the feet, arms straight. And then hold the breath, inhale deeply, hold the breath in, and keeping the elbows straight, begin to move them to the right. Take it around in a big circle, around above the head, around the other side, keeping the elbows as straight as you can. You can do a couple if you want, but once you've, at least on one, exhale, hold the breath out, and go the other way. And relax. And now for another thing that comes up in a number of Yogi Bhajan Kriyas, I always feel just never feels particularly right or rightly explained for some reason. It's actually quite simple, and it's bundle rolls. So all you do, toes, legs stretch that way, hands that way. Maybe you can grab them, up to you. Leave them open, I think is how he does it. And you inhale, hold the breath in. I've got a computer in the way, so I won't be able to do, I can do one, I think, here. And then there's a couple variations. The first is you just roll. And then the other variation is you keep the feet and the hands off the air the whole time. So you end up really stimulating the middle abdomen. So do a few of those with the breath held in. And then relax. And then roll onto your right side just for a moment. Stay there. Don't get up straight away. And then bring yourself up to a seated position. And the last part of these sequences is a series of shoulder stretches, some of which you'll recognize. Before I do that, I just wanted to show you the one posture. If you don't have time to do all that in the morning, is he says is the best one to do, and you kind of get why. And that's this legs spread, knees up thing. But now you're seated upright, but you're leaning back. And again, exhale to inhale. And then as the knees go to the left, the right knee comes to the left foot. And kind of lift the chest and turn the head. So keep the chest up and expanded as you turn side to side. The chin up. And relax. Shake when you're done. So that's I've got no more time in the morning. Single posture summary. So come sitting in a comfortable seated position. And place the hands on the knees. And think of your hands as being like attached but loose. And so part of the sequence of shoulder movements actually can also be about massaging and warming the knees and all the subtle muscles around the knees, which get used a lot in yoga and deserve some love. So for each one, we'll inhale and hold the breath and pull the belly in so the breath is in the upper lung capacity. Now, there are 8-ish of these. I'm going to do them in pairs, so just for time's sake. But if you had more time, then you would break each pair up and do it on a separate breath. So hands on knees, inhale to exhale. And the first one is opposite shoulder circles. So they come up to the top, and then one goes forward and one goes back, and they go back around. And letting again the hands be free on the knees. And when you get to about half your lung capacity, change direction. This one's once you work it out, you're all right. It can be a little mind teaser as well. So they're not going the same direction. That's actually an addendum to the 8 that you can do. Opposite directions. And when you get done, exhale. You can bend at the waist if you want and hold the breath out for a moment. Coming up. Next one, exhale to inhale. Expand the chest, pull the navel in, hold the breath, and now do just forward, half the breath, and then backwards. And when you get to the end of your breath, exhale and bend, hold the breath out. Inhale. Next one. Excuse me. And then, okay, so the next one, exhale to inhale. First half is forward and backwards, both. And then the second one is up and down. So exhale to inhale. Breath up in the upper chest. Go. And God, have I heard some pontification about what the head should be still or the body should move and all that. Like, you're just trying to stretch your upper spine, right? If you're doing that, you're doing it right. It's not rocket science, this one. And maybe even warm your knees. And the spine goes right up into the skull. Don't forget it. And then if you didn't do this one. And when you run out of breath, exhale. Inhale up. And the final pair is that, but alternating. So left shoulder forward, and then right shoulder forward, and the opposite shoulder goes back. And then the teeter-totter one that we know from the famous 10 Bodies Kriya. So exhale to inhale. And then if you want to get a little dog chen, Tibetan dog chen on it, whilst bringing in the addendum one that was Bob and Daisy taught in this video, you can roll the shoulders forward as you exhale powerfully through the mouth. Maybe do another. Inhale. And it's that kind of thing I feel like if you've been practicing a while and you're establishing your practice and you know you're not going to break anything, right? Like, it's those little freedoms that allow you to actually deepen your practice. And it's not even making it up. It's like, this was taught, emptying the lungs, coughing man breath is taught. If you watch the Tibetan Dzogchen, the really one famous documentary on YouTube or whatever, that's one of their kind of warm-up things, is rotating shoulders as they do that kind of coughing breath. And it's very effective at coughing up stuff and expanding the lungs. So, it's up to you. I wouldn't teach it to a bunch of beginners, but you can be guided to do these things in a way that I think is very authentic. Okay. Woo. Just and I'll have an hour. I think that's a good place to. Let's do a little cooling breath. I was saying right at the end of the break that Dev Murti teaches a few pranayams, a couple of which are cooling ones. And I feel that's one of the things that's really lacking. It's one of the missing yins from the yang that maybe isn't optimum for health, isn't do it. So I've been trying to bring in doing a cooling breath at the end of, I think you can feel it's quite a heating thing that we just did, even though it wasn't muscularly that intense. So let us do just a few plain vanilla Satali pranayam. You curl the tongue or create a constriction. Otherwise, if you can't curl your tongue, just use your lips and your tongue. Exhale completely. And when you inhale that air, you want to create pressure, because the way that coolness is created is when air goes from high pressure to low pressure. If you ever use aerosol can, they get really cold when you use them. That's because really high pressure to really low pressure. So that's the physics of what that's doing. So if you don't do it with a little bit of oomph, the air isn't that cold. And the other part of it is holding it down low into your abdomen, pulling it down low, and holding it there for a bit. So that air has the time to, the coolness has the time to ripple out. And you're literally cooling. It's not like an amorphous thing that only some yogi can see. Like, physically making cool air cool the body. So let's just do a few of those in your own time. And bring your full concentration into it. Almost visualize or visceralize, feeling that air go down to the lower abdomen, down to the root. You can concentrate on your lower spine as well, or that spot that's even not really the lower spine, but in that area. And vibrate there with your seed mantra. In ancient tantric texts, they often talk about focusing on the pause at the top and bottom of the breath. So having the breath held and extending that pause. And when you complete this breath, relax. Hari Om. So we'll take a break before we move into the kind of the few Kundalini specific, I guess we'll call them, exercises, techniques, and we'll also do the nalali, which is the stomach churning, which is the other key thing that is, I feel, a core part of yogic purification process that it was taught a bit with like a lot of the navel pumping, I think, in the 3HO corpus, but perhaps wasn't taught beyond, maybe because, I don't know, maybe you couldn't do it or nobody could do it, or maybe it was just seen as an advanced technique. But I think there's merit into learning the basics of it. You ever see the videos where people suck their belly in and they kind of do the rolls sort of thing? Yeah, so we'll give that a little go as well. And then some Mahabandha, which are all very powerful practices. And he called the Mahabandha the horsepower exercise. And focus on that. So we'll take a break. So let's say like 10 minutes. Is that cool? And if you need to lie down, you lie down. If you need bathroom. I'm going to hang out here. I don't feel the need to go anywhere. So if you want to share any experiences or ask any questions, then unmute yourself and go right ahead. So reconvene at 4:35. Excuse me.
So, Brian,
Yes, sir.
really interesting stuff, and really enjoyed that so far.
Cool.
And I came into it with I've had a bad back for about 2 or 3 months, and my back really enjoyed it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really good for that.
But one thing I was going to say, the other thing that I found really interesting is I've got this agent who I get my work from, and he's big into this bioenergetic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff that goes back to Reich and all that stuff. But he keeps trying to, when I go around to his place to get the latest project, which I have to do, he takes me out in the park and makes me do this stuff, because he hates the fact that I do Kundalini. Drives him crazy. He keeps saying, "Oh, you've got to stop doing Kundalini. You've got to stop doing it." But interestingly, some of the stuff that we just did is stuff that he does, which is quite interesting. So I don't know if that means anything or not particularly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, as we were talking about a bit last night, what is Kundalini? And in a way, it's like when he says stop doing Kundalini, what does he actually? I would ask him, what do you mean? Like, why? What exactly do you mean? Why? Because
He,
some
well,
of the
he's got
stuff
this.
is like powerful, energetic, and some of it's purification in a way.
Yeah, I
And I
think
feel
he's
like
got
this
this
stuff
thing
all
in
really
his
interests
head
me. I don't know.
that what Yogi Bhajan was always trying to teach was a very literal interpretation of Kundalini, of sort of literally forcing stuff up through your spine, which I know is not perhaps an accurate description of what he was trying to teach. But I think what he's been learning from his group is about sort of going in the opposite direction and sort of rooting yourself like that, getting that posture.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the dangers of Kundalini, as in releasing the energy, I don't really think like I've not seen many people have overly strong energetic experiences they can't handle. I don't think I've ever seen that. Personally, others have maybe, but it's not like what Yogi Bhajan's praxis is like exploding energy people can't handle. To me, the problems in the praxis come with in more partly that it isn't doing that, as it sort of claims in a way, and it's partly that there's just other weird things like exhaustion, sleep deprivation, that's just kind of often the case. And I mean, yeah, I feel like when people get like, oh, it's Kundalini dangerous sort of thing, I just like show me the proof, and I get it. There's truth in it, but it's like, um, am I really in danger? I just ask myself, am I really in danger? And I've done that, in my life, even when clubbing and things like that. Am I really in danger now? And sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I need to back off, but usually you're not. And but the distinction that, in a way, like I feel like he just dumped a lot of stuff. It isn't an articulate system. It's just a big package of stuff. Some of which is just classic yogic stuff that you see all everywhere that goes beyond vinyasa. Some of it is like more subtle energetic stuff that you sense comes from somewhere. Some of it he channels. Some of it he just made up. What's the difference? I don't know. But it's just like there's no structure. It's just like, and that was one of my motivations on seeking out this praxis. Is that I was like, I have all these 3HO manuals, and they're all totally useless at helping you construct a praxis that gets you somewhere. They're just a grab bag of techniques, and the techniques themselves aren't necessarily useless, but there's no guidance in it. There's no structure. And I feel now that you can start with, it's quite simple in a way, at least philosophically. There's a purification element, and then there's a stimulation element. And if you overly stimulate before you purify, then you're running water with high pressure through pipes that have kinks in them. There's going to be some fireworks, perhaps, or some burst mains. If you're doing all purification and you're not doing any of the stimulation, then you're just you'll be really fit, and you might feel really good, but you're not gonna turn the lights on. So, and I think if you just even start with that's the distinction, then suddenly things become more clear. But I don't think he was. I don't know. I kind of tired of trying to figure out what Yogi Bush is doing. I'm more interested.
Yeah.
What can I do to have deeper experiences? Because I like deep experiences, and I think that's our birthright as much as anything else. Is to experience the full extent of human existence,
Yeah.
physical, metaphysical, beyond. And fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Always worth remembering. But I feel like you also have this weird thing nowadays where like fools. How would you put it? Like fools make excuses so angels don't tread. I'm not saying your man's fool or anything like that. I just feel like it's one of these things, and it's like yeah, I'm willing to listen, but like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And maybe in a way that's what he means. Like there's too much stimulation, not enough purification, and maybe that's. But I feel these exercises are very stimulating. I feel like doing this stretching around the spine is really energetically rich.
Is it? I think it feels fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like
But I spent probably the last 18 months working really closely with Carey. So we did this. They did this fantastic. I mean, lockdown. It was a real lifesaver. We were in a nice community, but I reached the point where I'm feeling frustrated that they're limited to this particular guy's vision, and I don't trust his vision. Frankly, that's the problem. So I respect my teachers hugely, but I don't respect their teacher.
yeah. Well, that's the kind of point I came to. Like I don't trust. I definitely don't trust his vision. Or regardless, I don't wish to be part of it. On his terms or the organization's terms. And I think that's healthy. But then it's like, okay, where to from here? And if you've been doing it kind of 15 years or 20 years, it's quite a daunting thing to decide. But I feel like when you let go of that, as a lot of people have done, then things reveal themselves. And I feel like I've just understood what I've been doing in my whole yogic life, much more in the last year. And that's not because of Dev Murti. It's because of I've opened my mind to consider and explore it around, and then drawn the conclusions from that. I think that should be part of it. If I could change anything, and I've always said this about the organization, it's like too insular. Need to reach out more. It should just be normal that part of your teacher training, you have a guest teacher from a classical tantra lineage or from a Shivananda school or something to share their version of what you do. We got another minute. Does anybody have any more thoughts or questions? Or how do you feel? What do you think?
Are you in Totnes, by the way?
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, I was doing classes with this really lovely woman called Nancy in Totnes.
Nancy, huh?
Her Kundalini name was Karamraup Kawa.
Karamrup. Don't know Nancy named Karamrup.
Okay.
She's still around?
I don't know. That was 10 years ago. And I was living down there then, but I moved back to London, so I lost contact. But she was really nice. It was done that, that there was a little kind of square in the middle of Totnes, and there's a little town hall.
Yeah, she did it in the town hall. Ah.
I've got a question, please.
Brian. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm really enjoying it. It feels like for this workshop, it's quite an extensive array of different exercises. And I was wondering if there's any of the teachings of Dev Murti that talk about like a daily practice and maybe boiling it down into, I don't know, a 45-minute hour set that is to be repeated as a kind of go-to. I mean, you've mentioned some kind of quick, exercises that cover a lot of aspects in themselves. But does he suggest like this would be a good meat and veg thing to go to each day?
Yeah, there's no. Well, the neti, I would imagine he'd say the neti is a number one, the water for the nose and the thing, and the nali, which is the stomach churning. I'll tell you what I do, because I often don't have as long in the morning as I'd like, or I have a young child, so sadhana tends to shrink for a while. So I often have like half an hour at most, and I will do quite quickly. I always do the arm things and the twisty bit, and I'll often do those like walking ones. And then I will do, sometimes I'm doing a lot of the shoulder stand ones because I just have issues with my knees and ankles. But I'd imagine like, a quick run through of the basic sequence, maybe skipping out on a few of them. I always do this one too, because it takes the tension out. And then I haven't done these Cockerel ones as much as that basic sequence for time reason, but doing them today makes me want to do them more. So I think you just have to pick. That's part of the art of like being an everyday yogi, I guess, for lack of a better term, is manufacturing your sadhana. And I've never been one to kind of go to the teacher and be like, give me a sadhana. You just work it out. And yeah, I have my sort of 10-minute version. I've got my half-hour sadhana. I've got my 2-hour sadhana, depending on what I have. And you just have to work it out, and you get better at it with time. Depends on what you need.
I love the idea of getting to understand what they do a bit more. So it's almost like a recipe book of things to go to, with a bit more of a kind of understanding of what the different purification or invigoration exercises are. And getting clearer on that feels like something I've been craving for, doing all the things through KY. So yeah,
I feel it's one of the East meets West insanities that we've been convinced that we can't know what we're doing. And that's not just 3HO, that's in most of them, most of the East meets West spiritual practices, that you can't possibly know what you're doing, so don't try to know. And I just think that's not true. I think it's probably not true, because what we're doing isn't as far out as some of it's just quite literal, trying to bounce your root chakra, and some of it is just we need that authority to navigate. And even if we don't get 100% right, it's far better than just assuming we can't know and doing things by rote and then never really doing them right, because things get lost in translation, right? Yeah.
But one of the most powerful things that I have ever been told by my teacher was just let the yoga teach you. It's not like, you need to know before you do the yoga. It's like, do the yoga and the yoga will tell you what it's for.
Yeah, let the yoga teach you, but let it teach you. If you're being taught, then you learn. If you're 20 years later and you don't know why you do this thing a certain way, then you haven't learned anything. That funny story about like a class thing of a woman is a recipe for making garlic bread passed down from her nan and from her nan's nan and so thing. And one day she's showing her daughter, and she says, okay, first we do is we chop the ends off the bread, and then we cut it up and put on the butter and the garlic and put in the oven and so forth. And when it's done, the daughter's like, Mom, why do you chop the ends off the bread? And she's like, I don't know. And she goes and asks her mom. She says, I don't know. And then they go and ask great grandmom. Grandmom's like, oh, I had a small oven and the bread wouldn't fit in the oven. Man, there are so many ends chopping off the bread in Eastern meets Western spiritual practices, I can't even tell you. And we just have to, I personally feel, my personal opinion, take it or leave it, is the work we need to do now is figuring out what is necessary, the butter, and what is just lost in translation or just decayed through time. You've got like an old crusty map with holes in it and stain marks. You don't have this articulate like manual of perfected spiritual things. You've got this old crusty maps, and you're trying to get somewhere. So you're going to have to figure out where the holes are, except you can't even see it. So you know where the holes are and how to get there. That's the reality, I feel.
Well, as Kundalini yoga teachers, we had a very detailed map of lifestyle options, suggestions, and thousands and thousands of kriyas and meditations.
Yeah.
So it's like we actually had a very detailed map that we found out was written by an absolute charlatan.
But it's not a map. It never was. This is what I was saying a few minutes ago. I remember one time that I heard a teacher I shan't name say in his lecture at a big event that, we've been given this like exquisite Persian rug and we're just babies suckling on the end. I remember when he said that, I was just like, my inside was like, no, that's just not true. And at the time, I really respected this teacher. So I wanted to be, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll consider that. And I really feel that's the wrong analogy, that it's like a big bucket of stuff. Some of it classic, some of it valuable, some of it junk. And it's just been, here you go, dumped on the floor. There's no system. And you see when you start studying even like things like Shivananda yoga or this smart yoga, the yoga system is not very complicated. It may require like, dedication to the practice, but it's not complicated. It's like purify, stimulate, energetic, project, maybe developing devotion, ritualized component as well. It's not like this unknowable thing. And I just feel stepping out a bit and looking back into it now, it's insane. There's thousands of kriyas and meditations. It's just like, why? And yet nobody has a clue why. In 1,000 years time, they'll know this stuff. It's sorry, I call shenanigans on that. And maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think I am. I read an article recently as part 1 of 4 on a moniker called The Proto-Futurist, that's breaking this down and looking at it where it arises from historically, Eastern spirituality in the West, which is different than Eastern spirituality and is different than the West, and is. So if you're interested, and I'd love to make it a conversation. But yeah, very much like, are you going to abide by the protocol of an organization and an individual for reasons that nobody can tell you really why, or that don't necessarily check out entirely? Or are you going to own some self-authority at the risk of making a few mistakes? Take the latter nowadays. Okay, so let's go for around time. So I've got some juicy things to share. Yeah, you're right though, Kiranjot. Is like, you don't need to know everything from like, this isn't like about scientificizing. This isn't about validating through like rationality. Don't take it too far. Play both cards. Let things be a little mystical, unknown, but also like seek to know. That's how I say. Yeah.
Well, all I want to say is, yeah, I have taught a lot this past year since it's all come out,
Mm.
and I'm a very traditional Kundalini yoga teacher, and I know it works because there's Kriyas that I've taught hundreds and hundreds. I've got a
What's the
repertoire,
what?
you know, so like I have like 20, 25 Kriyas that I teach over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I just know they work
Works for what? Yeah, totally.
for making people feel fantastic, for
Yeah.
making people feel really alive.
But
So
to give
like you
you,
say, like this practice gives you juice. It's a practice that gives you juice.
yeah. But how far, what kind, and what comes with it? These are the questions I'm asking. I'm saying I'm saying you're wrong. I've got answers, but like how works for what, how well and how far, and what comes with it. These are the three questions that I'm asking now.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, don't want to go any more on that topic for now. And let's do some more. Yeah. Okay. Hari Om. Let's see. Where shall we begin? Let's begin with some body drops. So we'll do a few. Oh yeah, Noli. Mustn't forget Noli. Let's start with Noli. No, let's start with a few uppers in a way, and then we'll do that, and then we'll go into the breathing. Right. So just this comes up in the Devamurti corpus, so to speak. So sitting in comfortable seated position, cross leg, lift up, drop, pushing with the hands. And relax, shake, shake. Excuse me. Now, seated in easy pose, however, Siddhasana or Padavasana, lotus, if you feel so inclined. Bend the arms a bit, loose fists, and snap them up. You can do it with the breath. And now try to do it so much your bum comes off the ground. And once you think you've got that worked out, try to rotate and go all the way around. And see it like, like a slingshot. So, inhale, get yourself ready, and then pow, up. And when you get back around, just relax and shake. And come standing. Get loose. Now this is a fun one, quite invigorating. And as part of this set of things that I've come across, I feel like I'm calling it kind of like re-demystifying, because I don't like the demystifying of yoga as taking the spiritual symbolism out of it, which I think needs to come back in personally. But demystifying is in what I was saying about this belief that we just can't know and to know. And part of the set of things I've seen commonality in different yoga practices is this direct stimulation of this bottom, right, the root, whether it's sitting on your heel with it in the perineum, or body drops, or what we're going to do now, which is bum kicks. There is this sense that you can literally, through physical force, shake loose energy and then work with that and bringing that energy up. It's not in some other dimension you can only access through, and yet it may be in some other dimension that you can, that part of which you can only access through. So it's not that's what I mean. It's not demystifying. It's just, again, trying to bring this idea we can understand. But what we'll start off with is just exhale, kick the bum. So left heel comes to the right bum, left to left, right to right. And again, maybe even, especially if you're having a hard time reaching the buttocks, inhale, pulling back on the slingshot. Exhale, power, cannon. Mouth, nose, doesn't matter. But you want to try and make contact. If you can't, no big deal. That goes on, stimulating the thighs as well. I'm sure there's some magic happening there. And take a little break. Stay loose. And then do opposite. So left heel comes to right bum, right heel comes left bum with the breath. And you may have seen this in Yogi Bhajan Kriyas, where you're doing it on the floor in Cobra. I seem to remember seeing that somewhere in the Murti book, but either way, it's there, right? In some fashion. Right, cool, shake it out. Next one, is where the fun begins, is you jump up and hit both at the same time. So try a few of those. Make sure you're suited to do this. If you're having really difficult knee problems, chill out, don't do that one. And even these, you might want to be careful. So be mindful of your body. If you've got so do a couple of those, and then, let me turn off the waiting room, sorry. Then, excuse me. Then the last one, actually the next last one, is to do that, but you don't stop for a double hop in between. It's continuous. So it would be hey, 3, 5, 11, 108, maybe not now. But amazing how a little bit of this every day, or every few days, starts bringing some of the nimbleness back. And it's an energy that I find carries with me in the day. A lightness of movement and spirit. Now the final one, I don't even know, I guess it must be possible somehow, but it's the jumping again, and you can do it continuously or not. Crossing the feet, so opposite heel bum somehow at the same time. I mean, I kind of manage one and the other doesn't quite, so just for fun, try a couple of this. Anyway, shake it out. in a way, kind of back to your question, George, I'm kind of just, I'm just giving, like, I'm dumping a lot of stuff into this. We're doing a lot of stuff, and we haven't had a huge amount of breaks, and maybe in the future I would turn this into like 3 workshops, right? And more Pauls. But for information's sake, I'm giving you this, and you can use it as a reference if you can't be asked to. Definitely recommend getting the books. They're cheap enough, and they lay it out pretty well. They don't have everything. You have to scour the many hours of videos for that, but they have a lot of it. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff. Okay, so kind of similar to when we were on the ground. Starting off, just swinging the arms up, clenching the fist lightly as you do, and pushing up with the heels. With the breath, like a kind of powerful exhale. Or whatever feels right. Okay, shake. Then, now like a half version. So, arms up, but not quite as far. Pushing up just halfway with the heels. And make it like a snap, right? It's not just like a swings. No. It's like you're creating an energetic ball of power beneath you, and it lifts you up, right? Right, shake. Next one is you don't push up with the heels explicitly at all. Get your feet balanced, get your weight balanced evenly across the feet to make it possible. But now you snap just with the arms and your will to rise. And in doing so, the heels, if you do it enough, the heels will naturally come up a little bit. And that requires a little bit more concentration. You have to work out whether you're pushing up with your heels or the momentum's really carrying you. But it doesn't really matter. And shake. And then the last one, and this is where it gets subtle, and all the rest are lead up to that, is get nice and stable on your feet. You barely move at all, and you just, the snap is almost just energetically a subtle bit of motion to help. And maybe just a slight clench of the fists and raise of them to help you create that embodied energy feeling. And the idea isn't necessarily to remove all the muscular element, but that it takes it into the most subtle of them that are most directly connected to the physical counterpart of this energy store. I love that one because it's right in that liminal region between the physical. It's not super physical. It's a little bit visceral, visualizing, feeling, but it's also a little bit physical. That liminal in-between space. So then relax. Okay, so now we're going to talk Naladi, which is these stomach churning things. And this is generally done first thing in the morning after you've done your neti and some of your warm-ups, maybe your pranayams, and that stretching spine beginning sequence we did, the basic sequence. that loosens up and stretches the spine. It's not really one to do when you've got stuff in your gut. So if you have had food recently, don't really go full steam on this. And but we'll run through a few of it. And it's an art really. It's a skill that I'm just really started working on quite recently. So I'm, by no means it's better. If you want to see it done really well, go on the internet, you'll find it. But I can tell you the ropes. So we can inhale, and you can do this seated in lotus or easy pose if that works for you, if you're flexible enough. But we'll do it standing. It's easier a bit. So inhale and exhale. And what you do is you exhale, breath out, head, maybe a slight chin lock. You start off and you just suck the belly in. And I'm afraid I don't have the the ideal belly at the moment to demonstrate this, but I will show you just so you can see a little bit of it, particularly when we do this sideways. So just start off, exhale, and pull the belly in and under the rib cage. I'm going to stand up a bit more upright so you can see, or perhaps that's better. And then when you release, try not to just go suddenly. Try to pull in a little bit to take the pressure off from that suction, and then release gradually and come up. Shake it out a bit. So the next one, inhale, exhale completely, and pump the belly. You run out, come up. And I find that it can make you feel really winded. And that's I believe it's related to the stimulation of the vagus nerve, which is the feeling of being winded is a vagal complex thing. And that's why doing these things actually develops the nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Right. So now do the same thing, exhale, pumping, but rubbing your hand. Kind of squeeze a little bit with your thumb on the inside, fingers out a bit, and run them up and down your thighs as you do it. So, inhale up, maybe bend and exhale. Now the next one is the fun one where you see the belly going sideways, and I pondered and pondered how the guys did this, and I finally learned it in these set of teachings. So you inhale, exhale, come into it, and then you run I'll show you in a second, but you run the thighs, the hands up and down the thighs like this, and maybe you move them, or maybe they're stationary and you just push pull. You work out what works for you. It looks like this. If you look at your belly muscles, you'll see they're kind of doing this almost windshield wiper thing. And that's what I was doing. There's a navel energy component. So all disease begins in the navel. There's a digestion component. Navel is like an energetic, I see it as like a kind of the intersection of all the meridians, I think is how it's described. So important place to get right for everything else to work, from health to meditation. So maybe try that one again. Push, pull, look at your belly, pull your shirt up, look at your belly. And you can kind of get your shoulders into it. Give yourself the permission to move a bit. Inhale up. You can do just on one side. So exhale, lean on one side, and then run it up. Maybe the other. Little bit. Inhale up.
Could I ask a question? In these ones, you don't release the belly, you keep it in this one, as we did before in the pumping.
Yes. Oh, I just changed sides kind of quickly. So if you want to slow it down, come up, then do it again, exhale.
No, but while you're pumping, you're not, okay, I can see.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of like, if you've been doing this for years thing and you've got the practice down, you would probably just commence straight away with the various rollings. So you can roll up, you can roll down as we did with our hands, you can roll left and right, and then you can do the other variation is what they call kind of N, if you think like a lowercase n, so that the muscles go out, you push out, and then you roll, and then it comes in, and then U, where you pull in. And you know, this takes practice, and I'm just doing, but basically if you did like the N one, so it goes out, you go, and then you push, as you kind of push from one thigh to the other, you push the belly out. And then as you push from one thigh to the other, you push the belly out. So I don't know if I would be able to see anything, but and then the other variation, you suck the belly in. So one is like a divot in, like a U, and one is like an N. And the idea is over time is just to develop the capacity to articulate the navel muscles in such a way that you can clear out your digestion and you can relinquish this energy. I find it good afterwards to do some sort of belly tension relieving thing, either laughing, I do a few of the vowel laughs with the thing, or just a little bit of shaking the belly. I mean, there's also, you can kind of go in and go out. It's really like a whole, it's called Nali Kriya. It's a Kriya, and in the true sense of the word, as far as I can understand it. And it's a foundational practice of purification in yoga, but requires some work. So let me think, anything I want to do that I'm missing? Do I think so? Let's come sitting. And now from here, we'll move into some of the locks and the whole Mahabandha. So in the Yogi Bhajan praxis, we're taught Mulabandh, which is actually an approximation Mulabandh for beginners, which it says twice in the level 1 manual, and encourages students to go out and discover the deeper practice. And there's a really brilliant book from the Bihar school called Mulabandha, funny enough, and it's a whole sadhana of Mulabandh. And in that you learn how to articulate between the other two bandhas that are down there. So there's like squeezing your anus, there's squeezing your urethra valve, whatever it's called, sphincter, and then there's the perineum. And there are three distinct kind of things, and they each have names: Ashwini, Naroli, Mudra, and the other two are called mudras, funny enough. And then thing, and then there's a whole sadhana to articulate them. And when you do that, you start getting a little bit more subtle energy happening down there. Not so important to worry about, but it is referenced in the Murti text. So the Mulabandha, neck lock, Uddiyana Jalandhar Bandha, and then the diaphragm lock, which is effectively what we were doing when we just sucked our navel in there, right? So pulling the belly in and up. And in a way, the Mulabandha taught in 3HO is kind of like Mulabandha plus a bit of Uddiyana Bandha. It's anus, sex organs, navel. Well, the navel is Uddiyana Bandha. So, but who cares? What it's called. It's what we're trying to do. So Mahabandha is taught as the combination of those three. And the Devamurti text takes it a bit further and adds what they call additional locks. And some of them we were kind of doing anyway. So closing your eyes, there's eye lock, which as far as I can make out, they mean just by closing your eyes. But if you look up I think it's called Ajna Bandha, like third eye lock kind of thing. It's often specified as focusing at the third eye. So there's a lock. We've been doing that. And then there's also a hand and feet lock. So when you do it, there's clenching the hands, clenching the feet. And often at the end of meditation, Yogi Bhajan would inhale, mulband, and squeeze everything, right? Well, you can kind of squeeze everything and clench up, or you can kind of squeeze into the locks. And that's effectively what it works out to. And he also, in Bhavan Desi's videos, the student of Devamurti, he, interestingly enough, plays around with the order. And he encourages you to try that out. So you can, we always think, well, you got to start low and go up, right? Like you're trying to milk something up. But he also often starts high and goes low, or sometimes just all at once. So I thought maybe we'll run through a few of those, and then maybe we'll just sit and bask in the resultant effect. But Mahabandha also is taught, and I think in a way is an advanced practice, which is great, in the 3HO corpus, often in that you're sitting on the heel and the perineum, and the foot's up in front, and you grab the toes, and then you inhale, exhale, and apply the 3 locks. So that's where you may have seen it. Good practice. That's actually taught in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika and other places. So let's get seated nice and straight comfortably. Straight spine. Oh yes, and also like the in breath and the out breath is the other parameters you can play with. So let's just start off with the 3 locks that we know. And we'll exhale to inhale. And then with the breath held in completely, apply the mulaband, squeezing the perineum, then the diaphragm, pulling the belly in and up, and then the neck into the clavicle, and let the head drop a bit. Some people are like, no, you shouldn't let the head drop. And yeah, you shouldn't just like flop it down, but the chest raises and the chin goes back and the head will probably angle down a bit is okay. Now, when you get to your comfortable limit, in a controlled fashion, let go, inhale. And you're encouraged in the instruction of the student of Devamurti to let the yoga teach you, as we were saying earlier. And if that means you feel like you want to do this sort of the bend thing and hold the breath out, or if you feel like you want to move your hands, and some of the more advanced practices that Bhavan Desi teaches or demonstrates on his website, he just says, I'm going to show you more advanced versions, and there's not really any instruction, and the impression he gives is that it arises spontaneously. So, as you're done, you come out of it, feel your hands. What do they want to do? Are they calling you to go like this? Or are they calling you to go like that? To move? And begin to play with that. This idea of receiving almost an inspired asana or inspired mudra, gesture. Mudra means gesture of the body, and express that. You can think of it in bhajan terminology is almost like a spontaneous celestial communication as a result of the result of an asana or a mudra or a bandha. You see in videos and Devamurti will do things like this, and it's just I don't think this was written in some shastra, and he's like, oh, well, you do this in order to activate the glandular system. It's just like something's coming, and I'm going to mirror what is energetically been formed already inside of me. And that's a powerful, what I call liminal practice. Subtle, beautiful, and quite effective at doing something worth exploring. Okay, so this time we'll start at the bottom again and go up. And this time consciously closing your eyes, focus at the third eye, and clench the hands into fists, maybe let the arms bow a bit, and squeeze the feet as well. And when you're doing this, the instruction that Bhavavan Desi gives is to squeeze them, but not too hard. You just like you're holding something. You're holding a bag, and in the air. This is energy we're working with. It's not like muscle building. It doesn't require a power, super large amount of power to make it happen. So let's exhale to inhale. Inhale, starting root lock, belly in, chin in, squeeze the feet in the fists, eyes, third eye. Maybe your tongue even feels like it wants to curl back and push on the soft palate in the back of the mouth. And then exhale, relax, keep the eyes closed, and just do something with your hands, anything. Then bring them back to the position where they want to go. And let's try this again, going from the top down. So exhale to inhale, keep everything relaxed. Close the eyes to the third eye, bring the teeth together, curl the tongue back, expand the chest, pull the chin to the clavicle, pull the belly in, and apply the mulaband to the very bottom, the perineal muscles last, and then the hands and the feet, of course, which are said to be below them, perhaps. And inhale. Let them go. Try to let them go in the opposite order that you come into them. And we'll try that again from the top down. And even when you're in the posture, maybe there's a sensation that you can move something, that you maybe feel like you need to shake, wiggle. And I say this not to be funny or racy or anything, but it's the same thing that, like, when you're having sex and you have an orgasm, you assume you do asana, you do mudra, and it's entirely spontaneous, and you do mantra, and it's spontaneous because you know what you're doing. You're not thinking about it, but you move this way because you're trying to expand that sensation of not just pleasure, like eating ice cream pleasure. It's like of energetic expansion and bliss. And I really believe it's no different. The Kundalini yoga, that's what it is. And so when I saw that video of the advanced versions of this, Bhavavan Desi, and he's like shaking and he's doing these spontaneous mudras, to me it was like, oh, of course. Like the more advanced yoga, it doesn't come in like a more secret manual. It comes from the same place that comes from within us, right? So, sound all new age about it, but right in a very real way, not in some vague way. It's like, you know how to move when you're having an orgasm. Nobody's got to be like, when you have an orgasm, if you turn your head 30 degrees and your arms here, you just like, right? Same thing when you're doing these subtle energetic practices, and in a way that perhaps is even safer because you're letting the energy flow rather than feeling like you've got to. Now, you can kind of get carried away with it, maybe, I don't know. But it's a space to play with that very well might be very fruitful and may lead to deeper experiences that are healthy. So when you're in it, just see what your body wants to do a bit. Play with it. Make a mistake. Who cares? Overdo it and then underdo it, or try to do it and then it feels awkward. You know what I mean? Like, play. No consequence. Okay, so we're going to go top to bottom again, release bottom up. Exhale to inhale. And when you're ready, exhale. Move your hands. And make sure you come to full relaxation. Maybe even just let yourself assume, flop a bit. Bad posture, like just let it all hang for a minute. Just to make sure you're not accumulating tension. Let's try a couple on the out breath. And so maybe we'll go bottom up again. So starting with maybe even the feet, the hands in the Mula Bandha, or whatever bottom up makes sense to you, but ending with the eyes at the third eye, tongue, neck, tongue, eyes. Hands where they want to be. Inhale to exhale now. And exhale all that air out. Bottom up. To release, pull the belly in a bit more to take the pressure off, and then inhale. Let your arms go. And let's do a couple more. One top down. Blocks start high, go down low. And release coming back up. So inhale to exhale. And releasing from bottom up. And let's do one more. And just do them all at the same time. So right into, like it's just a natural extension of yourself to go into that full locked position. Eyes, tongue, neck, diaphragm, root, hands, feet. Inhale, exhale, you choose. So do the opposite breath to prepare for the breath you're going to do. Inhale, exhale. For the very last thing we'll do today together, there was an old meditation that I was taught by my first teacher. I'm pretty sure I saw printed in one of those old typewriter manuals, called Pranosphere, supposedly taught by Yogi Bhajan. And in it, you brought the fingers together and you separated them a bit, and then you just meditated with the eyes focused in that and created like an orb, which you then at the end drank. This isn't quite that, but it's very similar. Taught by Murti. So just let the hands cup. Don't worry about like too orbing it like that. Give them a rub. Then with the breath, inhale through however you want. You can do nose, you can do mouth. It's quite powerful if you inhale mouth, exhale nose. Just begin to go like that. Maybe close your eyes and do it until you begin to feel that there's a resistance in one of the directions. And then bring it to a ball and try to feel as if there is one energy there. And then take it and rub it around your body without touching. So your aura. And then rub your hands. And again, maybe this time, inhale when you're bringing them together and exhale apart, or the opposite, wherever you did before. When you feel you've got something, bring it together, feel that orb, and then rub it on your outside your body, on your extended body, without touching. So you touch, they say it discharges. And one more time, breathing however you want. And when you get something established, if you feel so inclined, play with it. Reaffirming, establishing this sense of something tangible. You can visualize it as well. When you get it nice and ready, put it on your body. If you have any loved ones, you can put it on them too. Anyone who needs healing. But we all need healing, so healing ourselves is as noble as anything else, I believe. And just come to stillness. And come back to, as we started, that place of gratitude to all the individuals and circumstances that have brought this to you as a gift. And maybe affirm in your heart that if it feels authentic, that you honor these gifts and in a way that also honors you, and honoring based in integrity, authenticity. And conjure a sense of the supernatural, as if the goddess that is Kundalini, the god that is Shiva, the goddess that is Shakti, are real to you, and offer your reverence and obeisance to them as the source of all knowledge and experience, consciousness. And we'll close by bringing our palms together and chanting Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om. So I thank you very much for sharing in this journey with me, sharing your efforts, your presence, and your thoughts were spoken, articulated. I hope it's given you some inspiration and some different angles from which to view what you already know. You know, it's just like that thing where they say that, I think it's a Mark Twain quote, or that it may not have been Mark Twain, that travel is the cure for all racism, or I think he's talking about racism there. It's like spiritual exploration of other practices is a cure for all. It's a cure for getting stuck in non-realities, or is a path to deeper understanding. So I said in the last night's talk, this thing like, they say, oh, don't go a mile wide and only an inch deep, go an inch wide and a mile deep. And I'd like to invite the idea that in some cases a mile wide is a mile deep. And there's a lot out there. Learn from it. It's brilliant. You're brilliant.